I don't see that. Am I on? Yes.
Yes, you're on. Yes.
I only see you, but usually I see me somewhere. But
I will try to pin you.
well, I don't have to see myself, so that's okay. I just wondered if I were there. Okay, dear friends. When I sort of wanted or offered this continuous workshop, I was mainly concerned with the path into the spiritual world. That was my main concern, not actually reporting from the path. I wanted you to go there. That is my main goal. It has slowly evolved. Several have come quite far on this path. And I have also, of course, I have worked every day with this path and trying to understand several obstacles or things on this path. And the last 2-3 months, I have been very occupied with the so-called fourth door. You see, when you come to the gate, the door of the elements, you go this elemental path, and then you come to the door of elements. And Rudolf Steiner described that there are 3 doors into the spiritual world: the door of the sun, the door of death, and the door of the elements. At his time, the door of the elements was, or the path of the elements, path through the elemental world, was, according to what he told Johanna von Kaiserlink, was not open, not at least not travelable. Can you say that? Possible to travel. She could go travel a certain distance into the elemental path, but then it stopped. And Rudolf Steiner said at that time it was dangerous and not really advisable. And Rudolf Steiner also said there were 3 doors, and also that if you were to become a true initiate or receive true knowledge, you have to go all 3 doors. So this leaves an interesting question. Do we have to go the path, the whole path to each door? Or is it enough with the path to one door? Because on each path or path, we meet the lower guardian, we meet the animals, we meet our doppelgangers, and so on. Do we have to do it 3 times? This was a very burning question for me for a long time. And so I went back to this door of elements, which I had reached a few years ago, and there asked the guardian, which is Vidar, about this thing. And he said, look to your side, he said. Look to the sides. And then I realized that when you are at a certain stage in your travel into the spiritual, you have an opening of 90 degrees. It's almost like you walk over the Norwegian mountains. When you reach a top, you can look to the left, there you see the other mountains. You can look to the right, there you see other mountains. You can actually see them from where you are. You don't have to then go down and then up to see it. So I looked to the left, and there I saw there were two more doors. There is one to the right when you go the elemental path, one to the right, and two to the left. That makes a total of 4 doors. For me, that was very unexpected, because I had read that Rudolf Steiner said there were 3 doors. That is in the lecture. Oh, where was this lecture? 3 doors lecture. Yeah, here it is. GA 157, 8th fourth lecture, 2nd of March 1915, where he described the 3 doors. But now it was definitely 4 doors. So I again contacted some friends, both Andrew Linnell and Markku Maula in Helsinki. And this 4 door, there is a 4th door. And they both confirmed that, yes, Rudolf Steiner said that there would be a 4th door. And this 4th door will be opening, or will start to open, by the activity of Christ in the etheric. So that means from around 1920, 1930 on, there will be more and more the 4th door open. And this 4th door is actually quite important. And you can reach the 4th door, as I said, by going the elemental path to the elemental door, and there you have access to the other 3 doors. You don't have to go this long path again and again and again. And at this 4th door, the guardian is, I do it a little easy, but the guardian is Christ. So that is the guardian of the 4th door, influenced by Christ in the etheric. And when you stand in front of these doors, they give a very different expression. And this 4th door is flowing with light. So I called it the door of light. And then later, a few months later, I read something from Peter Duno, where he talked about the door of light, that this would be would be maybe the most important door. So not the door of the sun, not of the death, not of the elements, but the door of light. And all these doors lead to different areas of the spiritual world which is behind, and they have different guardians. There are different guardians of each door. In some doors there are one, some are more than one. But then come the interesting thing. That is, when you have sort of made acquaintance with all 4 doors, or something change. And then I realized that when Rudolf Steiner said that you have to go all doors, he said actually all 3 doors. Now it is all 4 doors. Then that gives you another possibility. So what happened to me, and which also then made me realize, and that is the thing by steadily developing, that is, you see that you have expressed things somewhat wrong in the past. You are in the process of gaining more knowledge. So I was told at the 4th door, look back. And look back means look back into the elemental world, because all the paths are more or less through or involve the elemental world. And then I realized that I had to actually write a new book about this, this turning back from that point. Because when you walk the elemental path, which I have described, then you meet first the 3rd realm of the elemental world, the 2nd realm of the elemental world, the 1st realm of the elemental world, then the gate. You can remember that. This is the path through the elemental world. But when you, from the 4 doors, look back, then you actually can go into what is called the wider elemental world, where all of these elemental beings are there at the same time. They are not separated in different, that is only on the path. I thought that the path was the elemental world, but it is actually much wider. So this title of that path or that book I'm now writing is I call it in my simple language, the wider elemental world. And this give a very different knowledge, a very different experience than the path to the elemental gate or door. So what I have been doing now, the last months, or yeah, few months, is then investigating this wider elemental world. But I will not go into this subject too much. The most important for you to know is that when you come to the door of the elements, then look to your left and right, just like walking over the mountains. There you will see other possibilities and doors. And then you meet, when you have then stood in front of the 4 doors, then all the guardians become like a collective, like collected teaching, like all the teachers together. And then you have 9 guardians that you can face at this moment. In the totality of the 4 doors, there is a guardian, what do you call that in school when the teachers are together? Collective, yeah, collection of teachers, which is 9. Vidar is actually guardian 2 places, both in the elemental door and then together with Christ at the 4th door. So it doesn't, so he counts only 1. I don't count him twice, but still 9 guardians. So this is, so you see there is, it is so exciting and so giving, this work, and I am so grateful that I have been able to, or allowed to walk this elemental path and bring, and several times these guardians have said, you must bring this to your friends, the anthroposophists, because it is important today. And when you think that anthroposophy sort of is a little stuck in some ways, there is not really a huge, what do you call it, when people come together and want to join. This might be some possibility of changing that trend in the anthroposophic movement to get more alive, yeah, life for those who want to join. So this is what I have been working with since last time, and I do this every day, I must say, and it gives me a very, very great joy to do it and insight. And I would like then to go more over to the path. You can, of course, go 4 paths. Either you go to the door of the sun, the door of death, the door of the elements, or the door of the sun, and from there you can reach all the 4 doors. So according to my sources, Rudolf Steiner mentioned that there will be a 4th door. So this 4-folding is also coming to the doors. Are there any questions so far? And if not, or after the questions, we will go further into the path through the elemental realm, which is the path that I know the best. Although now I start also to see a little the other 3 paths.
Yeah, here is a question from Jordan.
I was going to ask the same question that Bonnie just put in the questions or in the chat. Do you still think that the 9 guardians will be universal, or do you think that they'll be different for every person traveling?
I think it is universal.
Okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But when I say I think, I say I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am only myself, so I don't know. But it
Yes.
seems for those who have reached the gates that they experience somewhat of the same, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so Bonnie asked who are the 9 guardians, and I don't know if you want to name them or do you want us to travel to ourselves?
No, I can name them. At the 4th gate, that is the most interesting. There are 4 guardians. And the first one you meet is the Adam Kadmon, the original human structure, the blueprint of the human being before the fall. Then you have the Christ. Then you have Vidar, which is together with Christ. And then you have an Archai, which I'm not sure of the name. That is the 4th door. At the 3rd door, the door of death, you have 3 guardians. And that the Vikings knew very well. And they are called, of course, have an old Norwegian name. I don't know the modern name because I don't know if Steiner have named them. But in Old Norwegian, we call them ve, verdande, and vilje, which means past, present, and future. Then you have the door of the elements, where there are two guardians, Vidar and Balder. And then you have the door of the sun, where there is one guardian. And that is also difficult to find the name. This guardian is a very high archangelic being. Yeah, that's the 9.
Okay, so when we get to the doorway, like in meet the original guardians, which was Vidar and Balder, to our left would be the fourth door. And
Now,
then,
first to the left is the door of death. To the right is
oh,
the sun.
okay.
And then 2 to the left is the door of light, which I call the door of light.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it wouldn't be
And
like behind us. It wouldn't be like opposite the elemental. It'd be 2 to the left would be
2 to the
the,
left, 1 to the right.
okay,
And they are
interesting.
all on a certain platform. Well, that is how I experience it. So you can actually walk on the platform. You can go
Oh, wow.
90 degrees
Okay,
and you can get to all the 4 doors when you
okay.
have done one path.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
And that is a very exciting experience. Colloquium of 9 guardians, because when you then talk with them, then you talk with them more in common. They work together. It's a little like the 18th, 19th lesson of Steiner, where you start to talk with both this angel, there are more and more answering the further you come into the spiritual, and that is what you experience when you are in front of all the 4 doors. In the beginning, it's 1, then it's more and more. And in the end, you are actually communicating with 9 high spiritual beings, which Christ is one. Yeah. Of which Christ is one. Excuse my English.
There's a question from Nancy. Yeah, unmute yourself, Nancy.
Nancy Macmillan.
Hello, hello. I'm wondering how you experience the door of light.
Oh,
Do you feel it, see it, or how is it in your body and your perception?
you see, when I travel, I am there and I see it. I see it very clearly. And the first thing you see in front of that door is a huge light, a streaming light you are met by. It's almost like standing in front of the sun. And then after some days, you start to see there are beings there. But that takes some time. I am very slow at that. I can stand in one place for 3, 4, 5 days waiting, and then it starts to come.
Do you, for those, many of us probably that are maybe a little ways down different paths from just being eclectic in how we've moved through this lifetime or other lifetimes, do you think you have to travel a whole one path before you can perceive the door of light?
Yes, I think there are, I guess there are 4, you might say, main paths and 4 main doors. But these 4 main paths, there are, I think more and more, there are individual variations of those paths. But still, you reach one of the doors first. You don't reach them all. And Rudolf Steiner also said you have to sort of go through all the doors. That means that you don't meet them collectively. In the beginning, you meet first one, and then you can go to the other. But the good thing is that you don't have to go the 4 paths. You have this mechanism of going in 90 degrees. And I have looked up or experienced that several times in the spiritual world. That is a possibility, which it is also in real life. When you have come to a point, you can look to the, let's say you study mathematics, you come to a certain point, then suddenly you look to right to physics, and then, yeah, then you understand that. You look to chemistry, yeah, you understand that with your knowledge of mathematics. I remember I first realized that at the veterinary school at the exam. I was in the exam of anatomy, and actually I answered the whole exam from my knowledge in physiology, because that is how the different structures work, and you can actually from that deduce the structure of the organs or the organ systems. So I was sort of amazed. I did the anatomy exam with my physiology knowledge. And this same experience you have in these 4 doors. So it's just reach, it is the path. You have to go one path. You have to reach one door, and then it gets interesting.
Okay, thank you very much. There's a question from Andrew Linnell.
It's not so much a question, but often I've heard, how does Ari know this or that, and I just wanted to mention something about this evolution that's going on also in the spiritual world. There's this wonderful lecture cycle called The Fall of the Spirits of Darkness.
Yeah,
And, and it explains how changes are going on in the spiritual world. And there's 3 changes which apply here. One is pushing down the spirits of darkness who've had a role in closing off the spiritual world in 1250 so that we could develop freedom. And now to open it up, they had to be driven somewhere else, and that's into human consciousness. And with them comes the elemental beings. He talks about the elemental beings of birth and death and how we have to become their, I use the word masters, their administrators. And so for me, this is an indication that that elemental path that you've found had to be opened with the pushing down of these elemental beings and for us to become their administrators.
Yes.
The next thing is the path to the sun. There are certain beings called Vulcan beings, and he brings them up in that, and also in the Materialism and the Task of Anthroposophy, Lecture 14, where, sorry for my pedantic mind, but, and in there he's speaking about how these Vulcan beings who had gone to help form the sun are now, since Michael pushed down those spirits of darkness, are here to counterbalance that. They, being the supermen from the sun, are obvious candidates for helping to make this door of light visible.
Yeah.
To make you aware. I think you are working with Vulcan beings
Yes.
in doing this.
And they are connected to the door of light.
Yes.
That's where I found them eventually in what I sent you. I sent you some manuscript.
Yeah.
And they are actually waiting for us on the etheric side of the door of light.
Thank you. Yes,
Not
that, I
the
agree.
element,
All of
not on
that.
the elemental side, on the etheric side.
Yes.
And one thing that sort of hinder them in coming to us, we have actually to come to them because they are so disgusted by our doppelganger.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Because the doppelganger is so disgusting to meet. And look, think about the picture of Dorian Gray.
Good.
He couldn't go into the room in the end.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
So I
you.
just, yeah, there's lots more. We'll have some more conversations at the Mistech conference. So thank you, Or.
Yeah.
Or before.
The
Back
good
to you.
thing with Andrew is that he can often explain to me what I say.
Andre, back to you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. So Mima is next. Mima, you are behind this black
Hello,
square.
I'm on my phone and I don't know how to turn on my video. I'm sorry. I usually join from my laptop. So I'm very excited to hear about this fourth gate. I've been very interested in following kind of events, contemporary events in the Christian world, worldwide. And I've come upon different Christian, in my perception, I would call them Christian initiates, and found in some of their talks and sermons a lot of information that is very compatible with anthroposophy, which was making me very excited. And I feel that our fellow brothers and sisters in the Christian world are also coming to this fourth gate. And they're using somewhat different terminology. They're using different expressions, how they describe their encounters with Christ. But what is my impression is that they're having a very, very genuine encounters with Christ. And it's encouraging for the feeling how the world is developing to see that this gate is opened and that more people are coming to communion with Christ. And in the third lecture of Rudolf Steiner's book From Jesus to Christ, Steiner also speaks about the time in the future, which is now and the last maybe 40 years, but now and more in the years to come, that there will be many, many more people coming to direct experience with Christ out of their own personal longing for a personal relationship with Christ. And also out of their own personal like purification of their own being. And then he gives this wonderful picture that with this timing of Christ having come back in the etheric and a human being develop their own inner soul and purified and had that longing for the Christ, that the individual will so purify their being that their own inner light would start to shine out, and it will enlighten, like it would shed light, and they would be able to perceive the Christ in the etheric, because their own inner light will be kind of helping by shining out. And so I feel like that there is more and more of that happening in the contemporary world, with people longing to commune with Christ. and taking that path. So I'm further excited to learn more from Are and others about what they discover about the fourth gate and this journey. And some of these contemporary Christian speakers that one can find online, one of them is Dr. Bruce Allen. He's still contemporary. Another one is Neville Johnson, who had passed away a few years ago. And they use the term waiting on Christ or waiting on the Lord, where they advise to take time every day and just be in quiet contemplation with this longing and this initiative and wanting to meet Christ and just spending time. And I think that might be one of the helpful practices to carry that inner longing in the heart very strongly and to spend some time every day focused on that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mima. So Lois is next. Lois?
Yes, hi. It's actually not Louise. I have the wrong, somebody else's computer, so it's Rowan. Hi, Are. I just have a quick question. You mentioned the individual, that you believe there are individual variations to a path. So if you have one door, to get to a door, there might be a main path, but now you think there could be individual variations. Can you say more about that? Does that refer to there might be individual variations to get to the door, or once you get there from then on, there are individual variations? And what does that mean? And I ask for a specific reason, specific, to myself in terms of this path.
Yeah, what I mean by that is, you see, on the path, you always meet the so-called animals or the lesser guardian, or your double, you might also say, and they are different for each single person. So that means we have to overcome these difficulties or work with our being in different ways. Also, when you reach the gate, you are taught by the guardian, and that is individual. The guardian teaches you what you need to learn. It is not a common, like a bad teacher who teach all in the class the same thing. No, he see the individual needs. Some are clever, some are not so clever, some need such homework, others need other homework. That means, is what I mean by individual. All paths will be individual. It is not, we are not replica of each other. Yeah.
Well, and I asked because the other day, and I don't know if you're going to approve of this, but I'll tell you anyway. I'm going through the, fading through the past. I'm somewhere in the third or second. I have a question on that maybe for later, where I'm actually at in the fading. But the other day, curiosity took the better of me, and I grabbed my drum, and because I'm more practiced in journeying that way, I closed my eyes and set the intent dissolved into the sound of the drum to go through the elemental realms in a straight line, just as I would go as I continue to fade. I drummed for about 45 minutes to an hour and went all the way through. When I came to the first elemental realm, in my mind's eye, I saw these beings. They were horrific. They're coming in and then they were behind me. And that went on for a while. And then I got to a horizon and I saw a light being that, as I was going towards it, it came towards me. That's what it felt like. And as I wanted to, I'm going to ask, who are you? But before I could, he gave me a message. And I say he because it seemed like a he. And that message was specific to me. And it translated into words, it would be, get right within yourself in relation to how you stand to spirit. And I knew what he meant because he was talking about my shadow in relationship to my self-worth and insecurity. And so at that time, as I was downloading that message, I was going to go back and then continue to fade and do the practice of the fading to get there, doing it fading wise. But before I could, something happened that I don't know what it is, whether he let me into the etheric or somewhere else, but suddenly I was in an area that felt differently, and it had the most beautiful color of purple and orange, saturated but not saturated. And I was in it just a little bit, and the best way I could describe it is if you ski on powder, moving through it it's just really light, and it was less compressed. But I knew I was not to stay there very long, very, very short. And I don't know if that was a command from the light being from the angel, or if I just knew it. So I turned around and went back, knowing that I need to go properly, if I, macro path, fading to it that way. Although I have to say, now that I saw what lives in the first realm, I'm not so sure I like walking through there. But so that was my that was my experience. And why I asked you about the individual variations, because I felt a little guilty jumping off of the macro path in doing this other thing. But there's a pre-story to that, because how I found you in your path, I was told that I shouldn't get comfortable on the path that I am, because there will be a new path that will emerge, which I believe is the Nordic path. And I need to engage that and combine it with what I'm doing so that I can access a higher power. And at that time, I didn't know what that meant, because I'm not an anthroposophist, or I wasn't at least. And so, and they just showed me that whatever that power is the angels hang out there. High angels hang out around that. And then I'm putting two together. Anyway, that is the story, but that's why I wanted to ask about individual path, because usually, I felt a little guilty changing, the very specific instructions.
No, I think what you do is your individual path.
Okay.
I think we all have individual paths. It seems that and also this interesting thing that you can change. You can maybe jump between. When you come to the doors, you can jump between the doors. And I am not sure that this is impossible also between the paths. You have to find your way to the door, and then the real interesting starts. So, but it all is a sort of walking, fading technique that I think is all the doors. And some also, of course, walk by bliss. They just go there. That is also possible, but we have all different. We don't know how much work we have done in previous lives. So some goes easier, some must work more. Yeah. Now I think more and more, I think that it is every person will experience a certain difference. It's like 100 persons walk through a forest. They all experience different things. Some meet a bear, some see a butterfly, some fall in a creek, and so on and so on. But it's still the same forest. But nobody have exactly the same experiences. Yeah.
Thank you.
Where do you live?
I live in Arizona, but I grew up in Germany.
Oh, well, that's the dialect. I was wondering, where is this dialect?
Yeah. I came to your Vancouver workshop.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. So question from Mima again.
Just a little reflection about all these different paths, and some of them are established like these 4 gates, and then we all have our different personal journeys, and we come through different gates and encounter different experiences. But ultimately, how I understand it, all leads to Christ, because Christ is ultimately the door and the way and the life and the light and the truth. So when we go through all of that, the further is through Christ. Just wanted to bring that.
Yeah, no, not really. It's when you go the elemental path, you don't get to Christ. Then you have to go through the teachings of Vidar, and then you can is allowed into the etheric world, and there you can find Christ. At the 4th gate, it seems that you meet Christ.
Well, that's what I meant. Like, I didn't mean that because I haven't traveled any of these paths yet too much farther, but that eventually, I didn't mean like the elemental leads straight to, but that eventually all these different paths, that the ultimate goal is to come to Christ.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then you will see that there is also a path after that further. It's not only to Christ and then it stops. It goes also further. You might say to God. And Christ said, nobody will get to the Father but through the Son. So you might say that the ultimate goal is not Christ, but he is necessary to get to the Father.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So there is Bob, this raised hand from the Bob. Go ahead.
Hello, Ari. Just a quick question. I'm wondering if you have any refinements on something that you've said actually a number of times. Not very far. In my fading into a jade plant, I see the shimmering and pulsing, and I haven't got past that. And I'm wondering, in the past you said, well, just keep on. It seemed like it's a question of individual will and you're stopping yourself. I'm over summarizing, but I'm just wondering if you had for us, in the early parts, if you have any updated refinements to what you've already said a number of times.
Yeah, well, then I would like to ask those who have managed to get through that point. And there are some. There are some. Is Glenn here now? Glenn Charles?
I don't think he's here.
No. Because because I am not, and I am painfully aware that I am not the best teacher you would have. Because I started with this fading through this path very many years ago. So I tend to forget and the problems in the beginning or how I did things. And when people now ask me, well, I experienced this and this, can that be possible? Then I remember, yes, that was a huge problem for me too. But I have forgot it. So how to what you do is you stop yourself at every moment because you intellectualize it. And that is a problem that is much easier when you are, let's say, a 7-year-old boy. You don't have any idea of what you are doing almost. Now we, especially anthroposophists, they have a lot of words about, or who said, yeah, a lot of concepts and words and about it. So they sort of stop themselves in doing it. And to be honest, I don't really know how to stop that. But then there are several who have managed to stop that and suddenly come through to the elemental realms. And that's why I wanted somebody like Glenn, who suddenly went through and almost didn't get out again, to explain how that is done. And I'm sure several of you here can say more about that. I'm not the best one. I forget the problems.
Okay, maybe Jordan will tell us.
So I think what helped me the most, like what you were saying with putting the concept on things, is trying to remain as neutral as possible when we're traveling. And the idea of moving forward and through was really also really helpful for me to not get stuck in the concepts, because you're starting to see things and then your mind's going off, right? It's like when you see the thing and you try to put a concept on it, it's like reeling yourself back in, and saying, okay, we can talk about that later, you know, that concept, and we can journal about it later. But as I'm traveling, I'm supposed to stay in this empty state of moving my way through, and continuing to progress forwards, like moving my, you know, just my intention, and then also continuing to put the intention while traveling, because that seems to be really important too. Like when I was trying to get to the point of meeting the guardians of Vidar and Balder, to really set that intention before I started traveling. And that seemed to, there's something with that, the intention that, you know, and maybe with that, whatever state that you're at right now with your jade plant, setting the intention, like, I would like to move past this point. Like, I am ready to move past. And like, once we state those intentions, that seems to be one of the most helpful things. Like, now I'm going to have the intention to go find the fourth door, you know, and like, that's going to be my intention that I hold. And that neutrality state does seem to be important, so that we aren't really, you know, we don't have ideas or we don't have attachments to outcome, seems to be important. So hopefully that's helpful. I don't know.
I was thinking about something I would like to add. There was, as you may know or maybe not know, Norway has suddenly one of the best football players in the world now. His name is Haaland. And they were trying to find out why he was so good, or is so good. And they found out that he actually do not focus on one thing. He has developed this side view. So when he is running, he see the whole field, and then he only have this intention of going to the goal. And that I thought, when they described this investigation of his mentality, his brain, how it works, that is quite much how you must do when you walk through this elemental world. You must not focus on anything, but you just see it inside you. And then just move, and you have it all sort of in a panorama, but you don't focus on anything. You observe, and that is why he can center the ball to wherever he wants. And more than anybody else, according to how they have found out how he plays. And I found out also that when I drive the car and come in difficult situation, I don't look to the right or to the left. I just go into this side view mode and just drive. I don't see anything, but I see everything. This is also a little like this going through the elemental world. Yeah, thank you.
You know, from my standpoint, in answer to Bob, I think it's important to find right medium for fading, because I mean, not everything is working for me.
No, good, right.
Yeah, for example, I've been doing exercises with candle, and I never had any experience with it. But uh, uh, experience with candle give you interesting side effects, because with different medium you're becoming much better. You understand? So because for example, my medium, I'm looking on air or blue sky, so and able to see elemental being immediately, like in 2-3 seconds. So adjusting my eyes, I can see everything is moving and they're present. Not happening with plants. So, but what's happening with me? So I'm looking on a white drapery. And it works. I mean, specifically if it's shade. I mean, if it's any shade. I mean, shade is casted on a white drapery. So it's very interesting participations. It's happening quick. Like I need to wait just 30, 40 seconds and start to move. And then it's becoming more and more focused, and until it will be kind of I'm piercing through this particular realm, and I can see different landscapes. So, but I've been looking for it. And secondly, I would say just enjoy it. So because I'm looking on the green grass, I'm looking on blue sky, and without waiting any result. So it's just part of practice. Yeah, but as soon as you will start some kind of movement, you will be taken by it, and intellectuality will go away immediately. So because you are so interested, oh, what's going on right there? I didn't reach like a super high level in fading, but I have some results. So it's not happening very often, by the way. It probably depends of how tired or fresh you are also. And unfortunately, most of my experiencing I'm having during late night. So, and I found it's nice to take a nap before, like for example, if you take a nap or you just kind of falling into sleep, but suddenly you're waking up like in 40 minutes, so you kind of feeling fresh, so it's really helpful. Okay, yeah. So Anthony's next.
Yes, all right. Am I seeing, are you hearing me all right?
Yes, yes, okay.
Okay, yeah. Well, this morning before the beginning of the gathering, I thought I would try a fading exercise, and I haven't been keeping up with that, but I thought this morning I just felt it was a good time to do it. And so you were saying, Andre, that you have trouble. I'm still using my cell phone, and I find that that's really working well. I hold my hand to the point where it disappears. I mean, I don't feel the weight of it. It goes. And at that point, I know that I'm entering. The fading is beginning to work. Well, this morning, the first individual that I met was a woman who invited me in. And she said, come on a journey with me. And so I followed. And it's interesting that you brought up this door of light, because the first image that appeared to me was very much like it was a Mary figure. It was a woman in almost in a nun's habit sort of thing, but it wasn't the woman. It was the fact that she was golden, and the gold was really beaming light. She was totally in light, encased, enclosed in light, and it was quite incredibly beautiful. And I thought this is very different from what I've experienced in the past. And so we carried on, and then I was inside a building, maybe a cathedral or something, and the other side of the cathedral there's a very, very bright light there, the same kind of golden light that was emitted from the other side. So I moved towards it, and it was light, but it was gold. It was the color of gold, pure gold, and it shone, yeah. And then I moved on, and there were a couple of other instances where that light appeared, and then towards, let's say, almost the end, there was a screen, very much like I don't know how to explain it, but very much like if you're looking at a film and there are different frames of the film and it's moving slowly, but the frames were also golden, and behind the frames they were somewhat hazy, but I could make out figures, particularly faces, etc., behind each of the frame. And it dawned on me, I thought, this is very much like the apostles. They appear to be very, very holy people, but I didn't see them in clarity as I would see something now. They were faded. They were faded behind this golden glow again. And then that carried on for a bit. And then towards the end, some darkness came, and I decided to leave. I didn't like the darkness that appeared, and I left. But that was very different for me this morning. But the light, you said you were speaking of the light, for me that experience was a golden light, and it was so incredibly beautiful, emitting a gold light, yeah. So well, that was the experience. There was another point too, where you said sometimes these paths may cross. Well, again, towards the end, I thought that I felt Vidar. Didn't really see the figure, but I knew there was a figure there. And the figure said, "Come closer, dear friend." That's what it said, "Come closer, dear friend." And I was about to do that, and then things shifted a little bit, but I'm thinking that I should go back there and try that and continue on. So,
There is, which I have been thinking several times, is that when we do this as a group, we are helping each other. And when we then start to be aware of this fourth door that is or at least contain Christ, this will then help all of us, actually. And it seems to me that this fourth door is far more important than the other three. That's why I wrote this book about the northern path of initiation, the elemental realm. Now I will publish in spring this book called The Four Doors. But it might be this crossing over to the fourth, like you indicated, that might. It sounded very much like it. Thank you.
Well, Dr. Penny, looks like you are raising your hand. Where are you? Yeah, just unmute your machine, please. Dr. Penny Albert. You're muted yet.
Sorry, the screen is totally different this time, and I don't quite know how to work all the buttons, so apologies.
You're good.
I'm good.
Yeah.
The gate of death with the 3 guardians, I think they're the ones that are referred to as the one who spins, the one who weaves, and then the one who cuts the thread, which is like birth, life, and death, yes?
Yes.
That, I think, I've come across in a lot of Western tradition mythology, in various traditions, Greece, down through those lines.
Yes, that is a very old door, and they were also called the 3 Norns.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, I think I've been through that door.
Ooh.
But I'm having a lot of trouble working out where exactly I have been and where I might be now.
Then I would advise you go out of the door, go back, stand in front of the door, and then look to the right and to the left. That is very important now.
I'm not sure I have enough control to go back to those places immediately, but I'm trying to link 2 things. When I encountered Christ, that was a direct experience. There was no vision in the sense of seeing with your eyes. There was an abrupt awakening of the inner sound, and it started up huge, massive voice, and then it quickly ratcheted down to a level that I could cope with. And it was a direct experience of Christ. And I was shown the karmic results of my actions well on into the future. Now, I've been trying to work out which door that was, and I honestly don't know.
You see, this door of death is especially related to the karma.
Ah, well, it was that then. Right.
And this weaving is actually the karma. It is a karma weave. And the one who cuts it when you die. So this is the door of death is related to karma, death, and which you experience, of course. After death, you experience your karma. That is the that is the pain almost full experience. You have to experience what you have done to others and so on. And that is especially what you can see or be aware of in that door.
So Christ is on the other side of that door.
Oh, yes. He is on the other side of all the doors, except the 4th door, where he also is in the door.
Oh, I see. Yes, I think that helps me a lot. I think I've got that a little bit clearer. Also, I wanted to offer a bit of research I've been doing on the Pictish symbols for the last few months. You spoke about experiencing the comb and understanding what that meant, which was the sunlight coming through your hair. Now, with the Pictish symbols, they're all in pairs, and with the comb goes a mirror. And so I've been thinking about that, and I wanted to ask, have you experienced the mirror with the comb?
No.
It seems to me the mirror has to do with the moon because it's reflecting, a mirror reflects. So I wanted to just raise that. And also, I wanted to show 2 composite symbols. If I can hold this up against the screen, On the right, the bottom there, that's the crescent and V rod, they call it. And then there, where my finger is the serpent and Z rod. Now, I think that the Z and the V are what's appearing on a lot of the Russian war machines. And I think that there's some connection from the old mysteries of the Picts through to what the Russians might be doing wrongly with that stuff now. So I thought that seemed very important, and I wanted to just raise it, place it on the record. And of course, if you have more knowledge of the Pictish things that I've raised, I'd always love to know.
Yeah, no, this is new to me, yes, these symbols. Yeah.
Ah,
But I'm sure they have a lot of knowledge about the elemental path.
well, I think it's to do with Skytianus.
Yes.
Somehow or other,
Yeah.
from Eastern Europe through right up to northern Scotland, there was some connection a couple of thousand years back, 3,000 years ago. And
Definitely.
it survived in Scotland for a very long time. And then in 800 and whatever it was AD, the Bride, the last of the chieftains, said that he was the last of the free, which made sense to me. And that's why I've had this interest in trying to see if it holds any seeds for the future that might suit a lot of us. I can't deal with the traditional Christian iconography visually. I just don't empathize with it at all. And so I've been looking for alternatives that maybe will help me move, that might come from the past and be possible to rejuvenate, something like that. This is very tentative because I'm not sure whether I'm on a productive line or not. So can I just hold this book up if anyone's interested? It was published in 1989, Anthony Jackson, Edinburgh University. And there's bound to be copies around. It's got all of the picture symbols and it's pretty good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Albert. Okay, Bonnie is next. Bonnie? Yeah, just unmute your machine, please.
Yes, thank you. Hi. Hi, Ari. Hi, everyone. Ari, you were asking about, how we're experiencing the fading. And I just wanted to say that I have most of my success in fading through a candle flame and through fading into the light on the surface of the ocean, and that being the best. And then it occurred to me when I was thinking about this that the feeling, the mood and the feeling that I experience in fading is much like the liminal state between sleeping and waking. And I'm wondering if there's any, if anyone has that experience as well, because I get a lot of I don't know if it's wisdom or a lot of imagery and messages through this liminal state, but also through my dreams, which sometimes feel very, otherworldly. This is not just a dream. This is, I'm someplace else. And Ari, I wonder if you could comment on that?
Yeah, well, in the early years, I studied anthroposophy. Rudolf Steiner said that you have to fall asleep but keep awake. And I thought for 20 years that he meant when you fall asleep in the evening, you have to keep awake. And that didn't work very well at all because I fell asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Now with this fading, it is, I am awake, but then I sort of fall asleep. It's not the opposite. It's not to keep awake while you fall asleep, but it's to fall asleep while you are wide awake.
Yeah.
That's why I can't do the fading best in the morning when I am very, very awake.
Mm-hmm.
Even had a cup of coffee in the morning and 100% awake, and then I can fall asleep. But I am totally aware. So that is how I misunderstood Steiner. So he say exactly that we have to keep awake while falling asleep.
Yeah.
But I think it would be better for me if he had expressed himself differently, to fall asleep while we are awake.
Yes, yes. Yeah, when I first read that, I tried it
Yeah,
and I literally stayed awake the whole night.
yeah.
But you
So
know,
you managed to do that.
not in a bad way, but yeah, I
Yeah,
kept this attentiveness.
yeah, very
That's
good.
what it is. But that's what it feels like, a state of sustained attentiveness.
Mm.
You know, without thinking, feeling, you know,
Mm.
just awareness moving through, I don't know, not even time and space, but just
Mm.
a kind of a movement, of an attentive movement.
Mm.
And that's why it occurred to me that it was like the liminal space when I'm fading. It's
Mm.
like, really, you dream into it, or I don't know if is there will involved there, or is it just a state of stillness?
Well, I
mean,
have to
you talk
involve
about movement. You talk about
my
moving.
willing.
You talk about moving through, right? So is it movement or is it stillness?
No, for me it is moving. I definitely move, and I move with my will.
Uh-huh.
And I have to be 100% awake and clear and logic, but still it is as if in a dream state.
Yes, yes.
Well, that
And,
is how I do that.
yeah, and in this, for me, in this sustained attentiveness, yeah, I am moving, but I'm feeling, you know, the imagery that comes and the movement that I see and feel around me. It's like attacks that don't disturb me.
Oh yeah, you are in the elemental beings can feel like attacking.
They're trying to make me stop, in other words.
That's why you must not care about it. That is what I mean by not seeing it. You just see it, like this Norwegian football player I described. You see it, but you just focus on what you are going.
Yeah, that's what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Glenn, just to mention Glenn again, he and I have that the same experience with the light on the water. We have a lot of success with that, fading light on the ocean water or a lake. Thank you.
It seems that different people have success with different items, methods. And that is also according to what I more and more see, that we are very individual. We all do it a little different. We all have a little different path. Yeah. But still, it's very many similarities, of course.
And I think it happened, I think I faded, a few times in my life without realizing what was happening. There were like maybe 3 times in my life when actually I was looking at the ocean, the water, the light on the ocean at sundown, after the sun went down. The light in the air changed into particles of colored light. And it wasn't a physical phenomenon. It was something that it was like an inward experience. Happened to me maybe 3 times in my whole life. Anyway, I'll let others speak.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So Nancy again.
Yes, hi. I'm trying to bring together a few thoughts here. At our last gathering, I spoke of how I'd kind of starting to feel flat with being able to move and perceive in the way that I had been. And at the same time feeling vulnerable to other forces and almost a sense of being in a dark place and having to deal with somebody brought up the doppelganger and needing to meet our shadow at some point in order to keep moving. So I feel I've been in this protracted place for a while. And then a couple of weeks ago, I got very sick and had a very high fever for about 4 days, which put me in a different space, or I was kind of lost, but also in a different space. And I had to finally, I trying to figure out how to move through this fever because it wasn't letting up. I tried to find where the light was again, and that seemed to, with a lot of will and asking, praying, I could feel a light come again, or I could identify an opening that was like light and that aligned to myself, that helped me move through it. But there was also at the same time a lot of forces with me moving through me, like whether my shadow forces or other beings that helped get dissipated after I did that and the fever broke. So I'm just giving a bit of an example of what sometimes it might be like coming into these darker forces that are attracted when we are moving along this path. And at that same time, the next night, I'm dreaming of being 10 minutes to midnight and being in a very dark place with beings that I shouldn't be around and trying to get out of it. But it also brings me into focus. And it's interesting, Penny bringing up the symbols and the bombs, because I'm zeroing in on bombs and looking at the very substrate, the elemental composition of the bomb, and bringing all my forces to pray for these substrate material to do no harm. And as I'm offering that intention or prayer, the fronds of the elemental beings start moving in response to that. So
when you are confronted by the adversarial beings, it is possible to then Christianize them, to make a crack, open it, and invite Christ.
Yeah.
Don't forget that is, instead of just praying, also you do it actively.
Mm-hmm.
You make a crack, you make an opening, and you invite Christ in.
Right.
that is also working with Asuric beings. It's easiest with the Luciferic, then the Ahrimanic, but then the Asuric also possible.
Right. And the Azuric, will you know that they're Azuric or?
Oh yeah, yeah. Because they are so, the Luciferic, they are quite Luciferic, especially within anthroposophy. We have been described Lucifer so many times. The Ahrimanic is very appalling or not actually ugly in many ways. But the Asuric, they are terrible. They are, and that is also the Steiner described them as the spirits of birth and death. And I think somebody in the beginning today mentioned this to sort of stand or meet the beings of birth and death and be able to meet them, but then bring Christ in. I think that is so, we haven't talked much about this time, but that is so important that we are always aware that we can make a crack. Like Leonard Cohen said, there is a crack in everything. That's where the light gets in.
Right.
Sometimes we have to make that crack. There is a crack in many of the element beings, so it's very easy to invite Christ in. But in some, and you might say the stronger they are, or the especially the Asuric, there is no crack. You have to make it. And there is a man in Norway, Gaute is his name, and he is working with this. I know him for many years. He is more and more oriented towards anthroposophy and Steiner, and he is working with these beings that is created by deeds through the times that is still lingering. That means demonic elemental beings. And a few months ago, I was invited with his group to give a 2-day workshop. And he said, I cannot change these elemental beings that has to do with killing or death or murder. And they are the Asuric.
Okay.
And he is sort of a gentleman. But then I demonstrated it, how you have to make this crack, and you have to make this crack like like this. With the Luciferic and Ahrimanic, you just open the middle like this, gently. You all see me, I guess. But in the Asuric, you have to make a little crack, almost like you crack an egg. And then you open and invite Christ. And then I got a week later a mail from him, and he said, yes, that worked. Even the elemental beings that are created by murder and have been lingering for hundreds of years, they can change or transform when you do this method, this movement. Almost like in anthroposophy, you in eurythmy, you have to really, yeah. So remember that possibility, please.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So our friend, which is this tech Lois, again, please, what's your name? Lois?
Rowan.
Rowan. Could you just rename yourself?
Yeah.
You can do it. You can rename. Rowan. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just to step it back. I had a question as I am practicing dissolving to figure out where exactly I am at this point, and maybe our you can help me pinpoint that. I have been fading, and just to give you the context, and I do two things. One, I use a flat surface, like a cardboard or something to dissolve into, and sometimes you use a plant, a crystal, something more alive. And I find it much easier to do a flat surface. I progress easier. But on the flat surface, I can see elementals. I saw elementals in the third realm and continued to go. And then I came to a place where I felt like I was stuck for a while because all I saw was a landscape, kind of a canyon landscape, kind of actually similar to Arizona landscapes. And there was no elemental beings for a while. And that went on. And so I said, well, I'm just going to reset myself mentally, and then started fading again. And then I saw elemental beings again. They were a little bit different. I saw kind of humanoid looking two-legged, and they looked they had stone cold eyes. When you looked into their eyes, it was stone cold, and but they had a big head. And then as I continued, I saw like something like a biomath globs, reminded me of biology class when cells are growing. And then I saw at some point I saw something more like an insect and an octopus, but that was very briefly, and this was a few weeks back. And since then I haven't seen anything that was insect-like, and instead I still see just more elemental beings. So I'm not sure. My guess is, I know I was in the third realm, moved through the third realm. I guess I'm still in the third realm, but I'm not sure. And I don't know if you can help me with knowing where I am, or maybe I just have to continue until it becomes more clear as I move forward.
As long as the form is dominating, you are in the third.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you can describe it, when you come to the second and first, especially the first, the form that is only force. The form is in the third, then substance in the second, and then force in the first. But now,
But
now,
that the force in the first can be seen, so to speak, visually as something.
Yes.
Represent. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, they all have form. They all have, but that is a dominating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we have. I must take a little care of my energy. We have spoken now for over 1.5 hours, and I feel that we should now take a little break.
Excellent. Excellent. So it's right decision. So dear friends, shall we take 5 or 10? What do you think, Ari?
No, I think we that is the time limit for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean a break, 2-month break.
Oh yeah. You're gonna conclude? This is what you think, right?
I get to
yeah. Okay. Dear friends. Yeah. Okay, let's round this session.
So I thought we should continue the 7th of September.
Yeah, well, let's take a look. I mean, yes, looks like we can.
Same time, same place.
Same place. All right, dear friends. So I'll see you, and Ari will see you again online on September 7th. So, okay, Ari.
And the weekend before, I'll be teaching in London.
Okay, so folks from Great Britain, just keep in mind.
Yeah.
When
all right, thank you.
When are you coming to the West Coast, Ari?
That is Frisco Bay. Yeah. I arrive in the US the a few days after your famous election, the 7th of November in Vancouver, and then I leave again the 25th of November. So between 7 and 25th of November.
The West Coast meaning where? California, Oregon?
I don't know.
You know.
That is
Okay.
up
Okay,
to
thank you.
Michael Frosch.
Oh, Michael taking care of it, right?
Yes, I'm working on organizing that, and at the moment it looks like Vancouver will be your first stop on November 7th for a number of days, and then I'm working with a group in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, who are still developing plans, but there are a number of different options. So likely Ara will be staying for a slightly longer period of time around the Bay Area and working on a number of different parts. And then I'm not quite sure what the third week is going to look like. It could be coming back to the Canadian West Coast. And working in Duncan, it could be that that something else emerges. We're just seeing if another location in California are interested. So that's still emerging.
You're the boss.
Yeah.
Basically, he'll be in the Bay Area the second week of his 3 weeks, and in Vancouver the first 5 days. Yeah. And the last week is still up in the air. And I'll be starting to post that information as soon as it clarifies. I'm just working on it now.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, dear friends. Ari is a little tired, so I'll see you, and Ari will see you on September 7th. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
From Toronto. Hi from Toronto.
Thank you. Ciao.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Andre, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm leaving already, so
Is there going to be a transcript of this, or
it's recorded. Yeah,
Okay.
just write to me, so I will
okay?
navigate you.
All right,
Okay,
ciao.
thank you, dear friends. Bye-bye.